How to teach your child compassion with Buddhist wisdom. A heart-centered approach to raising kind and mindful children. In a world that often glorifies competition, individualism, and instant gratification, raising a compassionate child can feel like swimming upstream. Yet, Buddhist wisdom offers timeless and practical teachings that gently guide parents on how to nurture kindness, empathy, and inner strength in their children. Compassion, karuna, in Buddhism, is not just a moral value, it is a transformative force, a deep intention to relieve the suffering of others. And when planted early, it can blossom into a life of purpose, connection, and peace. 1. Compassion is not weakness, it is inner strength. In the world of parenting, where strong boundaries, discipline, and achievement are often emphasized, compassion can sometimes be misunderstood, even dismissed, as indulgence or permissiveness. Yet, through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, we see a radically different truth. Compassion is not a retreat from strength, it is the essence of it. In Pali, the word karu means more than just feeling sorry for someone. It means to tremble in response to suffering, not from fear, but from care so deep that it naturally wants to alleviate that pain. To teach compassion to a child, then, is not merely to teach them to be nice. It is to nurture a strength that recognizes suffering and dares to face it, rather than turn away. This is no small task. Children, by nature, are sensitive and emotionally attuned beings. They notice when someone is hurt, left out, or distressed. But how they are taught to respond in those moments becomes the crucible in which either indifference, avoidance, or compassionate strength is forged. So how do we show a child that compassion is strength? Reframing the narrative around strength. First, we must redefine what strength means within the family culture. In many households, strength is defined as control, dominance, emotional detachment, or self-sufficiency. Children are often told to toughen up when they cry or discouraged from showing tenderness, especially boys. But in Buddhism, true strength lies in the ability to remain open-hearted in the face of suffering, to meet difficulty with calm and care, rather than aversion or aggression. The Buddha did not conquer through weapons or force, he transformed the world through understanding, equanimity, and boundless compassion. When a child witnesses you, as a parent, choosing gentleness instead of anger, patience instead of blame, they are absorbing a deeper, more enduring model of power, one that brings people closer rather than creating fear or separation. Let them see that offering a hug to a sibling who is angry, helping a friend who made a mistake, or standing up for a classmate being bullied, these are not acts of fragility. These are signs of inner maturity. It is easy to retaliate, it is hard to remain kind. Kindness is courage in action. Compassion as the opposite of fear. Most reactions that lack compassion, mockery, cruelty, exclusion, are rooted in fear. Fear of being vulnerable, fear of being different, fear of not belonging. Compassion, on the other hand, requires one to step into that space of vulnerability without flinching. Teach your child that it's okay to feel uncomfortable when they see someone suffering. It's natural to not always know what to do. But to not turn away, to stay present, to offer a kind word, to sit silently beside a friend who is sad, that is a profound act of bravery. This is why even small gestures matter. A child who puts a hand on another child's shoulder, who shares their lunch with someone who forgot theirs, or who includes the quiet kid in a game, those are not small things. They are the seeds of great bodhisattvas in the making. Teaching through self-compassion. Children who are taught to be hard on themselves, who are punished harshly for mistakes or shamed for imperfection, often grow into adults who are harsh on others. That's because we give from the well we carry within. If that well is full of judgment, we pass it on. Therefore, teaching self-compassion is a foundation for outward compassion. When your child fails, struggles, or acts out, these are golden opportunities not to discipline with coldness, but to guide with gentleness and clarity. Instead of, "What's wrong with you? Try. That didn't go how you hoped, did it? Let's take a breath together. What can we do differently next time?" When your child sees that their worth isn't based on perfection but on their humanity, they will begin to offer that same grace to others. The role of mindful storytelling and reflection. Use real-life examples or traditional Buddhist stories to reflect on strength through compassion. Tell them about Angulimala, the fearsome bandit who was transformed not by punishment, but by the Buddha's calm, fearless compassion. Share the story of the Buddha's encounter with the raging elephant Nalajairai, which he calmed not with violence, but by radiating pure loving kindness. Ask your child, what do you think made the Buddha so powerful in those moments? Guide them to see that calm presence, understanding, and love are not signs of surrender but of unshakable inner balance. Encouraging moral courage. Compassion also means having the courage to act even when it is not popular. Many children instinctively want to help, but hesitate, especially when peer pressure discourages it. As a parent, you can create dialogues around real-life scenarios. What would you do if you saw someone being laughed at? If a friend was mean to someone, would you join in or speak up? Rather than giving a lecture, open a space for reflection. Share how compassion sometimes means being the only one who speaks kindly, or being the one who chooses peace when others choose mockery. Celebrate those moments. When your child chooses kindness, no matter how small, affirm it. Let them know you see it. That it matters. Compassion that includes all beings. Buddhist compassion is not selective. It doesn't only include friends or people we like. It extends to animals, strangers, and even those who are difficult. Teach your child to care for insects instead of killing them reflexively. Let them help feed a stray animal. Talk about refugees, the homeless, or people in the hospital not as statistics, but as human beings who feel just like them. The practice of compassion is about seeing ourselves in others. When a child learns this, they do not just grow into a good person. They grow into someone capable of seeing the sacredness in all life. 2. Be the example. Children reflect what you practice. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a timeless instruction. Atna Dhamyatvana, Paradamda. Having trained oneself properly, then one may train others. This teaching is a gentle but unflinching mirror for every parent. It reminds us that parenting is not about perfect instruction or flawless discipline, it is about embodying the values we wish to see in our children. Children, after all, do not learn compassion, patience, or mindfulness because we lecture them about it. They learn these qualities by witnessing how we respond when life tests us, especially in the everyday, messy, unscripted moments. The power of silent teaching. Children are keen observers. Long before they can understand abstract ideas like loving kindness or empathy, they are watching, silently absorbing the emotional climate of the home, the tone in your voice, the way your eyes soften, or don't, when you speak to them or to others. You can tell a child, be kind to others, but if they witness you speaking harshly to a waiter or reacting with contempt to a neighbor, the spoken lesson is overruled by the lived one. This is why, in Buddhist parenting, self-transformation precedes child transformation. The home is not just a place to raise children, it is a training ground for the heart. And the parent is both student and teacher at once. Ask yourself, when I'm frustrated, do I react or respond? When I make a mistake, do I hide it or humbly acknowledge it? When I'm stressed, do I take it out on others or find ways to return to stillness? Every one of these questions reflects a seed that will sprout in your child's consciousness, whether you intend it to or not. Emotional contagion and the mirror neuron effect. Modern neuroscience echoes what Buddhism has known for centuries: emotions are contagious. Through what are known as mirror neurons, children unconsciously imitate the emotional states and behaviors of those around them. If you frequently display irritability, your child is more likely to internalize frustration as a normal way to cope. If you demonstrate calm breathing, soft-spoken words, and sincere listening even in conflict, your child begins to internalize those patterns as tools for living. This is not to pressure you into perfection. Rather, it is a compassionate invitation to treat your own inner life with as much care as you hope your child will treat theirs. When a parent takes responsibility for their anger, rather than blaming the child. When they apologize after a moment of harshness, they not only teach humility but also model what true strength and accountability look like. Patience as a practice, not a trait. One of the most beautiful gifts you can give your child is the example of practiced patience. Buddhism teaches that patience, kshanti, is a form of spiritual endurance. It is not passive tolerance but the active ability to remain grounded amid difficulty. When your child tests your limits, and they will, your reaction becomes their learning. If you can breathe, pause, and respond, not out of impulse but out of intention, you show them that anger is not the only option. For instance, imagine your child spills juice on the floor after being told not to. Your conditioned response might be irritation. I told you already. Why don't you listen? But a mindful response might sound like, I see that happened. Let's clean it up together. Next time, can you be more careful? This small shift doesn't mean you're ignoring boundaries. It means you're upholding them without harming the emotional bond. You're showing that mistakes are opportunities for learning, not shame. Over time, this example builds a child who is not only better behaved, but more self-aware, more secure, and more open to growth. Gratitude as a daily ritual of mindfulness. Gratitude is not something children are born with. It is cultivated. And the most effective way to cultivate it is not through commands, but through consistency. If your child sees you thanking others with sincerity, even for small things, they will learn that gratitude is not just good manners, but a way of relating to life. If they see you take a moment before meals to give thanks, they'll learn to appreciate the unseen efforts behind what they consume. Gratitude in Buddhism is not about obligation, it is about recognition. It is the humble awareness that nothing we enjoy exists independently. Teach your child this, not by preaching, but by living it. Say thank you to your partner in front of them. Acknowledge a teacher, a janitor, or a stranger at the market. Reflect aloud, I'm really grateful for this quiet moment with you. These small acts become a child's inner voice, modeling imperfection with grace. Children need to see that it is okay to fail, to falter, to fall short. If we try to portray ourselves as perfect, we build in them a silent pressure to be perfect too, which is the enemy of compassion. Instead, show your child that imperfection is not the end of love or respect. When you forget something, apologize. When you raise your voice, own it. When you have a rough day, say, I'm feeling a little off today, but I'm working on it. This doesn't make you weak in their eyes, it makes you real. And realness builds trust. They learn that being human is not about always getting it right. It's about trying again, gently. Creating a home that breathes peace. The Buddha once said, a disciplined mind brings happiness. A home led by a parent who lives mindfully, even imperfectly, is a sanctuary. Create rituals that your child witnesses. Sitting in silence for 5 minutes in the morning. Lighting a candle before bedtime as a symbol of stillness. Offering a silent blessing before eating. Invite them in, not by force, but by familiarity. Over time, these practices will be as normal to them as brushing their teeth, and infinitely more nourishing. Your presence is the teaching. Ultimately, what children remember most is not what you said, but how they felt around you. Did they feel safe when they made a mistake? Did they feel heard when they were confused? Did they feel loved when they were struggling? These are the moments where your example leaves its deepest imprint. The Buddha transformed lives not through dominance, but through unwavering presence, deep listening, and compassionate action. As a parent walking the path of Dharma, you don't need to be a spiritual master. You just need to be willing to live your values, day by day. And in doing so, your child will learn, without ever needing to be told, what it means to live with compassion, integrity, and joy. 3. Teach them to listen with the heart. In the quiet teachings of the Buddha, there is a profound reverence for sacred silence, not as emptiness, but as a space where truth can arise. Listening, in the Buddhist path, is more than just hearing words. It is a spiritual act, a doorway to compassion, and a practice of humility. When we truly listen with presence, without judgment, we are not just receiving sounds, we are receiving the person behind those sounds. To teach a child to listen with their heart is to give them one of the most enduring and beautiful skills they will carry through life. It empowers them to understand others more deeply, to relate with kindness, and to respond with wisdom rather than reflex. But in a world that prizes speed, noise, and reaction, mindful listening has become a lost art even among adults. So how do we teach a child something that even many grown-ups struggle to do? Listening is a form of loving. The deepest form of love is not found in gifts, praise, or protection, it is found in presence. When we listen fully to someone, we are saying, I see you. I care enough to stop, to be still, and to receive you as you are. Children feel this. Even before they can articulate it, they know the difference between being heard and being dismissed. How many times have we heard a child say, "You're not listening to me," when in fact, we may be multitasking, glancing at our phones, or preparing a response before they've finished. The first step to teaching them to listen with the heart is to model what it looks and feels like to be fully present. When your child is talking to you even about something seemingly small, pause. Look into their eyes. Kneel down to their level. Let them finish. Then respond slowly, kindly, and sincerely. This simple act becomes a mirror. They will internalize it, not as a technique, but as a natural way of being. Listening without fixing, correcting, or controlling. One of the most subtle obstacles to true listening is the urge to intervene. As parents or caregivers, we want to help. We want to correct, offer advice, or stop the discomfort. But often, what a child, or any human, needs is simply to be heard without interference. Imagine your child says, "I had a bad day at school. My friends didn't talk to me." The reactive parent might say, "Maybe you did something wrong. Try being nicer tomorrow. Don't worry about it. You have other friends." But the listening parent responds with, "That sounds hard. Do you want to tell me more? How did that make you feel?" This kind of response does not shut down the child's emotional world. Instead, it holds space for it. It teaches the child that their emotions are valid, that their voice matters, and that silence is not a void but a sanctuary. Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh called this deep listening, the kind of listening that heals suffering. It requires patience, and more importantly, it requires the listener to quiet their own inner noise. Training the ear of the heart. Buddhism teaches us that we listen not just with the ears, but with the heart-mind, the inner stillness that can sense meaning beyond words. Children are very capable of this, if guided gently. One practice you can introduce is called sound awareness, a form of mindfulness training that is accessible even to very young children. Sit with your child in a quiet room or outside in nature. Close your eyes together. Invite them to just listen. After a few minutes, ask, "What did you hear? Did you notice sounds close by or far away? What sound made you feel calm? What sound surprised you?" This exercise teaches the child to become aware without reacting, to notice without labeling, and to simply be present. Over time, this quiet tuning of attention builds the foundation for empathetic listening in real conversations. You can also use a singing bowl or bell. Ask the child to raise their hand when they can no longer hear the sound. This helps lengthen their attention span and encourages inner stillness. Hearing the unspoken. True listening is more than decoding words, it is also about perceiving tone, energy, and emotion. A child trained in this awareness becomes not only a better listener but a more compassionate friend, sibling, or future adult. Encourage your child to look for what's beneath the surface. You might ask, "How do you think your friend felt when they said that? Did their voice sound sad or angry? Was there something they weren't saying?" This is not to make the child overly analytical, but to guide them in developing emotional sensitivity, what Buddhism would call clear seeing, vipassana. It's the understanding that what we see is never the full picture, and compassion begins when we realize there's always more to someone's story. Creating listening rituals in the home. Just as we create routines around meals and bedtime, we can build rituals of connection that center on listening. For example, daily check-in, ask, what was the best part and hardest part of your day? Listening circle, once a week, hold a space where each family member shares something important, and others listen without interrupting. Use a talking object, a stone or a soft toy, to signal whose turn it is. This isn't just about sharing, it's about training attention, patience, and presence. When children witness adults listening to each other with respect, it normalizes a culture of compassion. Listening to nature, animals, and the inner voice. Listening with the heart also means tuning into voices that do not speak in words. Encourage your child to listen to the rustling leaves and ask, what is the tree saying? Sit beside a pet and feel what the animal might be communicating. Listen to their own breath and heartbeat. These moments cultivate reverence for life, which is one of the roots of Buddhist ethics. When a child listens with sensitivity to the world around them, they are less likely to harm, more likely to care, and more in touch with their own intuition. When they don't listen, practice what you preach. Of course, there will be times your child does not listen. They interrupt, talk back, or seem distracted. This is normal. The key is how you respond to their inattentiveness. Do you raise your voice and demand silence? Or do you say, calmly but firmly, I'll wait until you're ready to listen. I want to have a kind conversation with you. In those moments, you are teaching far more than rules. You are showing them that listening is a shared responsibility, a sacred space where both people matter. 4. Share Buddhist stories that nurture the heart. The power of storytelling has been recognized in every culture as a transformative tool for teaching, guiding, and inspiring. In Buddhism, stories, particularly parables and Jataka tales, hold a special place in the tradition. These stories, which recount the Buddha's past lives, are not just historical accounts, they are spiritual lessons that convey the deepest wisdom of compassion, selflessness, and ethical living in ways that are accessible and resonant for all ages, especially children. For a child, stories are more than just entertainment, they are windows into moral values, complex emotions, and profound insights about human nature. Through these narratives, children can be gently introduced to the vast landscapes of kindness, generosity, forgiveness, and moral courage, all of which are pillars of Buddhist practice. The stories serve as both a mirror and a compass, reflecting our humanity and guiding us toward better, more compassionate ways of living. The power of parables, lessons beyond words. Buddhist stories are often parables, tales that convey deep moral teachings without ever explicitly teaching a lesson. Through the lives of characters who struggle with desire, greed, jealousy, and anger, children learn about the human condition in ways that can be profoundly transformative. One of the most poignant aspects of these stories is how they engage the imagination. For a child, the line between reality and fantasy is often fluid. A story about a noble king or an ordinary person encountering suffering opens up a world where empathy and compassion can be practiced with the same conviction as the characters in the tales. Take, for example, the Jataka tales. In these stories, the Buddha recounts his former lives, where he embodies various animals, gods, and humans. Each of these lives presents an opportunity for the Buddha to practice virtue, whether it is kindness, patience, courage, or wisdom in different situations. For instance, one famous story from the Jataka tales is that of the Bodhisattva as the prince of the deer, who, after finding a wounded deer, takes it upon himself to protect the animal from those who would hunt it. In this story, the prince demonstrates selflessness and compassion, not by seeking personal gain, but by offering his protection and kindness to another creature in need. By sharing such stories, you encourage your child to reflect on their own ability to show compassion, even in the face of difficulty. The tale of Prince Vesantara, a story of generosity and non-attachment. One of the most beloved stories in the Buddhist tradition is the story of Prince Vesantara, whose life embodies the extreme of generosity and non-attachment. In this story, Vesantara, a prince, gives away everything he has in order to help others, even to the point of giving away his own children. While extreme, this tale offers a rich opportunity to discuss generosity, non-attachment, and the deeper meanings of selfless giving. Vesantara's actions may seem difficult for a child to understand, especially the part where he sacrifices his own children. However, the beauty of this story lies not in the literal act, but in the spiritual principle it conveys, that true generosity comes not from attachment to possessions, status, or even relationships, but from an open-hearted willingness to share whatever one has, whenever it is needed. You could ask your child, how would you feel in that situation? What do you think Prince Vesantara was trying to teach us? Is it easy or hard to give things up for others? What do you think he learned from giving away everything? These questions invite the child to reflect not just on the actions of the prince, but on the inner process of generosity. What does it mean to give without expectation? To detach from our desires and attachments in favor of the well-being of others? These are deep lessons that can shape a child's emotional intelligence and understanding of human interconnection. The story of the Buddha's awakening, from suffering to compassion. Another pivotal Buddhist story to share with children is the Buddha's own journey from a life of luxury to the profound realization of suffering, and finally, to enlightenment. The Buddha's path is a journey of transformation, of seeing the world as it truly is, and of developing a heart that radiates compassion for all beings. Sharing the Buddha's story provides a foundational understanding of how suffering and compassion are intertwined. Children can learn that suffering is a universal experience, it is not something to be ashamed of or avoided, but something that unites us all. The Buddha teaches that instead of running away from suffering, we should confront it with understanding, and transform it into compassion for others. You might say, the Buddha was a prince who lived in a beautiful palace, but he saw suffering in the world and decided to leave everything behind to understand it. What do you think he learned about suffering? What does it mean to care for someone who is suffering? How can we be like the Buddha and help others who are hurting? These questions help children connect to the Buddha's teachings in a way that feels personal. They can relate to the Buddha's own struggles, and as they grow, they can draw on this story to guide them through their own challenges. Engaging children with the power of reflection. When telling these stories, it is not enough to simply narrate the plot. The reflection, the pause for thought after the story, is equally crucial. Asking open-ended questions that invite reflection allows the child to connect emotionally with the story and to begin developing their own sense of moral reasoning. For example, after telling the story of the Bodhisattva's compassion for all beings, ask, how would you feel if you were the one who was hurting? Would you want someone to help you? What would you do if you saw someone in need? How can we be kind to others? By connecting the story to real-life scenarios and engaging your child in conversation, you encourage them to take the lessons from the parables and apply them to their daily life. Additionally, sharing these stories provides an opportunity to introduce children to the concept of mindfulness. When they are able to hear stories about non-attachment or kindness, they can also start recognizing those qualities in themselves. They can begin to ask questions like, how can I be more like the characters in the story? What does it mean to be kind to someone even when it's hard? Living the stories, creating space for compassionate action. The beauty of Buddhist stories lies in their invitation to live out their teachings. It's not enough to merely talk about compassion, children learn to embody it by acting on it. Use the stories as a springboard for action. After sharing a story of generosity, you might engage your child in an activity of giving, whether it's helping a neighbor, donating clothes, or simply sharing a toy with a friend. For instance, after reading the story of the Bodhisattva's self-sacrifice, encourage your child to ask themselves, what is one way I can help someone today? Can I be generous in a way that makes a difference in someone else's life? These small acts of kindness, when inspired by the stories you share, will nurture the seeds of compassion in your child's heart. The universal message of compassion. Through the tales of the Buddha's past lives, the wisdom of the Jataka tales, and the moral courage of figures like Prince Vesantara, children learn that compassion is not just a virtue, it is the very fabric of our interconnected lives. By sharing these stories, we show them that the world is not just about taking, it's about giving. It's about embracing the suffering of others and offering whatever help we can, no matter how small. By discussing these themes with your child, and reflecting on how they relate to their own lives, you are teaching them that compassion is a muscle that needs to be nourished, practiced, and developed just like any other skill. Underscore 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 underscore. 5. Cultivate gratitude, the soil where compassion grows. Gratitude is the fertile soil where the seeds of compassion are planted and nurtured. In Buddhist philosophy, the practice of gratitude is seen as a vital component of cultivating a kind and compassionate heart. Gratitude is more than just a simple act of saying, "Thank you," it is a deep, ongoing practice that shapes our worldview and influences the way we interact with others. By nurturing gratitude, we create a foundation for compassion to flourish in our lives. In the context of parenting, teaching your child the practice of gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to encourage compassion, empathy, and a sense of connection to the world around them. When children cultivate gratitude, they begin to recognize the value of what they have, not just in material terms, but in emotional and relational terms. Gratitude helps them see the good in themselves and others, fostering an emotional intelligence that naturally leads to kindness and selflessness. Gratitude as the foundation for compassion. Gratitude and compassion are two sides of the same coin. They are intertwined in a way that makes it difficult to cultivate one without the other. When we are grateful, we feel a sense of abundance, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. This abundance naturally leads us to share with others, both materially and emotionally. In other words, when a child learns to appreciate the kindness and love they receive, they are more likely to want to offer the same to others. At its core, compassion arises from the recognition that all beings share in the same fundamental human experience, the desire for happiness and the avoidance of suffering. When children develop a sense of gratitude, they start to realize how much they have already been given, not just by their family, but by the world around them, whether it's the kindness of a friend, the support of a teacher, or the simple joys of nature. This recognition, in turn, motivates them to pay it forward and share kindness with others. For example, in Buddhist teachings, the bodhisattvas, enlightened beings who choose to remain in the world to help all sentient beings, demonstrate the highest form of compassion by expressing their deep gratitude for life itself and using it as a platform for helping others. This is the ultimate expression of gratitude, where every act of kindness is rooted in a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of all life. The practice of gratitude, simple, yet profound. One of the easiest and most effective ways to cultivate gratitude in your child is to make it a daily practice. Just as we develop physical muscles through regular exercise, we develop emotional and spiritual muscles through regular practice. Gratitude is no different, it requires daily attention and intention. By making gratitude a habit, you help your child internalize it as a natural part of their daily life. A wonderful and simple way to weave gratitude into your child's life is by incorporating it into nightly rituals. Before bed, ask your child the following questions. What are you thankful for today? Who did something kind for you? What kind thing did you do for someone else? These questions invite your child to reflect on their day, not just in terms of what they did, but in terms of how they were affected by others' kindness and how they contributed to others' happiness. This practice helps children develop awareness, not just about themselves, but about the people and events that shape their lives. Over time, this awareness builds emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize and understand their own emotions and those of others. In asking these questions, you are guiding your child toward a deeper awareness of the good things in their life. Gratitude fosters an open heart, which naturally extends to compassion. For example, when a child is grateful for a kind gesture from a friend, they are more likely to want to pay it forward and offer kindness to others. This daily reflection on kindness and gratitude can also help children reframe negative experiences, teaching them to find something positive in difficult situations, a practice known as reframing or reappraisal in Buddhist thought. The power of perspective, seeing life through a grateful lens. Gratitude is not just about acknowledging what we have, it's about shifting our perspective. In a world that often encourages comparison, entitlement, and dissatisfaction, it is easy for children to focus on what they lack, whether it's toys, attention, or approval. However, when children are taught to focus on the abundance of what they already have, they begin to see the world through a lens of gratitude rather than lack. One key practice in Buddhist philosophy is the cultivation of mindfulness, which includes being mindful of our thoughts, words, and actions. Gratitude is a form of mindfulness. It requires us to be present and acknowledge what is good in our lives. For children, this can be as simple as taking a moment to notice something beautiful or kind, a blooming flower, a smile from a friend, a warm hug from a parent. By teaching children to recognize and appreciate small, everyday moments, you help them see the beauty in life, even during difficult times. Gratitude cultivates a sense of contentment and peace. When children learn to focus on the positives, they naturally develop a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity, which is the foundation of both happiness and compassion. Gratitude and emotional intelligence, the heart of compassion. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is the ability to understand, manage, and use our emotions in healthy and constructive ways. This skill is essential for developing compassion because it allows us to empathize with others, recognize their needs, and respond with kindness. Gratitude is an essential part of emotional intelligence because it helps children develop self-awareness and awareness of others. When children practice gratitude, they become more attuned to the emotions of others. For instance, when they recognize a kind gesture from a friend, they are not only aware of the action but also the intention behind it. This deeper awareness makes them more sensitive to the feelings of others, which is a critical aspect of cultivating compassion. Through gratitude, children also learn humility, the understanding that they are part of a larger world and that they depend on others for their well-being. This humility, in turn, leads to a natural desire to help and support others, which is the essence of compassion. Gratitude and the Buddhist concept of interconnectedness. In Buddhism, one of the key teachings is the idea of interconnectedness, the understanding that all beings are interdependent and that our actions, thoughts, and emotions ripple out into the world. Gratitude is a direct reflection of this interconnectedness. When a child practices gratitude, they begin to understand that their happiness and well-being are not isolated but are intertwined with the well-being of others. This understanding helps children develop a sense of shared responsibility. They begin to recognize that their actions can have a positive impact on others. They learn to appreciate the contributions of others to their happiness and to see how their own actions contribute to the happiness of others. In this way, gratitude leads naturally to compassion, as children learn that they are not alone in their struggles and triumphs. Encouraging gratitude in challenging times. Gratitude is especially powerful when practiced during times of difficulty or challenge. In these moments, gratitude helps children reframe adversity and find meaning in the struggle. Just as the Buddha taught that suffering is an inevitable part of life, practicing gratitude during difficult times teaches children to accept and grow from adversity. For example, if your child faces a disappointment or frustration, perhaps a cancelled play date or a difficult school project, ask them to reflect on what they can still be grateful for. It could be the support of family, the opportunity to learn, or even the lessons learned through perseverance. This practice builds resilience and teaches children that even in tough times, there is always something to appreciate. Gratitude as a family practice. To cultivate gratitude, it is important to model it as a family. The more you practice gratitude together, the more your child will internalize it as a core value. Family rituals such as sharing a gratitude circle during meals or reflecting on the day's blessings before bed can deepen the practice for everyone involved. Gratitude becomes a shared experience, creating a bond of positive energy and mutual appreciation. 6. Practice loving-kindness meditation together, Metta Bhavana. In the heart of Buddhist practice lies Metta Bhavana, often translated as the practice of loving-kindness meditation. It is a profound yet simple way to cultivate compassion and warmth, not only toward ourselves but toward others, expanding our sense of empathy to embrace all beings. The practice of metta involves directing well-wishing, kindness, and love toward oneself and others, and it is one of the most accessible tools for teaching children the essential values of compassion and unconditional love. What makes Metta Bhavana particularly powerful is its universality. You don't need any special equipment or environment to practice it. There are no complicated rituals or prerequisites. All it requires is a few quiet moments, some simple phrases, and a willingness to open the heart. For children, who often have natural tendencies toward empathy but lack the words or awareness to express them fully, Metta Bhavana provides a simple, structured way to deepen their emotional intelligence and compassion. Through the practice of metta, children learn that love and kindness are not just passive emotions, they are active choices that require intentional practice. It teaches them to recognize their inner capacity for love and directs that energy outward, forming the foundation for genuine compassion toward others. What is loving-kindness meditation, Metta Bhavana? The word metta means loving-kindness or unconditional love, and bhavana refers to the practice or cultivation of that quality. Metta Bhavana is an ancient Buddhist meditation practice designed to cultivate an attitude of goodwill and love toward oneself and all beings. The essence of this meditation is rooted in the understanding that love and kindness are not finite resources, they expand the more we share them. In metta, we begin by offering loving kindness to ourselves, which might feel difficult for some. After all, how often do we encourage ourselves with kindness, especially when we make mistakes or feel unworthy? However, loving kindness toward ourselves is crucial. It is the foundation upon which we build compassion for others. Once we offer this love to ourselves, we extend it to others in widening circles, from loved ones, to neutral people, and eventually to those we find difficult to love. For children, this practice can be incredibly impactful. By teaching them to direct kind thoughts and wishes not just to their family and friends, but also to their pets, strangers, and even those they might find challenging, we cultivate a heart that does not exclude anyone. The beauty of metta lies in its capacity to dissolve boundaries. Its love doesn't discriminate. Starting with the self, the importance of self-love. In the practice of metta, we begin by focusing on the self. This is vital because the relationship we have with ourselves sets the tone for how we treat others. Too often, children, just like adults, grow up internalizing messages of self-criticism, insecurity, or the belief that love is something we must earn. But metta meditation challenges this narrative by reminding us that love is our birthright. It is something we have the right to receive, starting from within. When we encourage our children to practice metta with themselves, we help them foster self-acceptance, teaching them that their worth is not contingent on perfection or external validation. In this step, the meditation often begins with phrases like, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease." Encourage your child to repeat these words silently or aloud, allowing each phrase to sink in deeply. As they do, invite them to reflect on their own value, not based on achievements, but as a being deserving of love and care simply because they exist. This practice helps them nurture their inner dialogue, transforming it from one of self-doubt to one of self-compassion. Extending loving kindness to others. Once your child has offered loving kindness to themselves, they can begin to expand the circle of compassion outward. Start by encouraging them to focus on family members and friends, people they feel safe and comfortable with. For example, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease." This is a natural and easy extension of metta, as it's likely that your child already feels love and warmth for those they are close to. The goal here is not only to express kindness but to help them actively consciously wish for the well-being of those they care about. As they do so, they strengthen their emotional bonds and deepen their understanding of compassion. This practice also builds empathy, allowing children to begin recognizing the importance of others' happiness, health, and safety. It instills the understanding that the world does not revolve around us alone, but that every living being, whether they are family, friend, stranger, or even animal deserves kindness. Extending loving kindness to neutral people and strangers. The next step in metta practice is one that challenges the child to broaden their perspective even further. Here, they move beyond familiar faces and begin to offer loving kindness to neutral people, those they don't have any particular feelings toward, such as a neighbor, a schoolteacher, or a store clerk. This helps children recognize the intrinsic worth and dignity of all people, whether they are familiar or not. For example, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. It's a beautiful lesson in the universality of compassion. By directing loving kindness toward strangers, children begin to see the world through a lens of shared humanity, recognizing that we all have hopes, fears, desires, and struggles, and that everyone deserves kindness, no matter how familiar or distant they may seem. Loving kindness for difficult people. The most challenging and transformative step in metta practice is extending loving kindness to those we find difficult or challenging. This might include someone who has hurt your child, someone who has made them feel angry, or even someone they might view as unfair or unkind. This aspect of the practice is where true healing happens, both for the one offering the metta and for the one receiving it. Metta teaches that kindness is not about waiting for others to deserve it, it is about actively choosing to love even those who may not reciprocate or who have hurt us. By offering loving kindness to difficult people, children can learn to move beyond feelings of resentment, anger, or fear. They begin to recognize that by wishing well for others, whether or not they feel the same in return, they open themselves up to a greater capacity for love. For example, encourage your child to repeat phrases such as, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease." This can feel difficult at first, but with practice, it can help a child transform their negative feelings into understanding and compassion. It also offers them the emotional maturity to handle conflict more gracefully, moving beyond reactionary behaviors to a more mindful response. Making metta part of daily life. One of the beautiful aspects of metta meditation is its simplicity. It doesn't require any special preparation or environment, just a few moments of quiet reflection, which can easily be incorporated into daily life. You don't need to be sitting cross-legged on a cushion or in a meditative posture to practice. Metta can be practiced anywhere, while walking, waiting in line, or sitting at the dinner table. Children often learn best through consistency and routine. Consider integrating a short metta session into your family's daily activities. For instance, you could make it part of their bedtime ritual, using the moment before sleep as an opportunity to express loving kindness toward themselves and others. Alternatively, you could practice metta as a way to start the day, helping your child set an intention for the day ahead, perhaps through a quiet moment before breakfast, where they repeat loving phrases and reflect on the kindness they wish to bring into the world. The ripple effect of loving kindness. The power of metta meditation is that it's not just about personal transformation, it's about creating a ripple effect of kindness that can spread to the world around us. By practicing loving kindness, we send positive energy into the world, which has the potential to heal both the giver and the receiver. Over time, children who regularly practice metta develop a deep and authentic love that grows beyond their immediate circles, creating a sense of connection with all beings. 7. Normalize mistakes and teach forgiveness. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a deep recognition that all beings are imperfect and constantly in a state of change. This fundamental truth is at the heart of what it means to be human. Our experiences are shaped by both success and failure, joy and suffering, and moments of clarity and confusion. In the same way that the Buddha taught that all phenomena are transient, anicca, children must be encouraged to understand that mistakes are not permanent markers of failure but are rather part of the process of growth and learning. By normalizing mistakes, parents can help their children embrace imperfection and develop the resilience needed to face life's challenges with a compassionate heart. Teaching children to approach their mistakes with compassion rather than shame is one of the most important gifts you can give them. It encourages them to see their mistakes as valuable learning experiences rather than as something to fear or hide. This philosophy of acceptance and forgiveness is not only rooted in Buddhist teachings but also in building emotional resilience, a quality that will serve them well throughout their lives. The Buddhist view of imperfection and change. One of the core teachings in Buddhism is the recognition that impermanence, anicca, is a fundamental aspect of existence. Everything in the universe, from our thoughts and emotions to our actions and relationships, is subject to change. In this light, mistakes are not seen as failures, but as part of the natural ebb and flow of life. In Buddhist philosophy, it is through our imperfections that we learn the most about ourselves, our world, and our relationships with others. For children, this means that mistakes should not be feared, nor should they be viewed as reflections of their worth or intelligence. Instead, children should be taught that mistakes are opportunities for learning and growth, and that their inherent worth is not tied to perfection. Emphasizing this perspective helps children develop a sense of self-compassion, the ability to accept their own imperfections without harsh judgment, which is critical for emotional well-being. A key aspect of this teaching is non-attachment. In Buddhist philosophy, we are encouraged not to cling to outcomes or expectations. In the context of children and mistakes, this means helping them understand that it is okay to let go of a perfect vision of themselves or their actions. Mistakes do not define who they are simply a part of the ongoing process of becoming. Encouraging compassionate responses to mistakes. When children make mistakes, the way adults respond can deeply influence how they process those mistakes and learn from them. Instead of reacting with harshness or disappointment, it is important to approach mistakes with compassion and a mindset of inquiry. Buddhist teachings encourage us to ask questions that foster understanding and growth, rather than reacting from a place of judgment or anger. A compassionate response to a child's mistake might include asking, "What happened?" This question encourages the child to reflect on their actions without fear of punishment. It shifts the focus from the mistake itself to the child's ability to reflect and learn from the experience. What can we learn from this? This question encourages the child to look for lessons in their mistakes. By framing mistakes as learning opportunities, you help children develop resilience, the ability to adapt and grow from setbacks. How can we make it right? This question empowers the child to think about how they can take responsibility for their actions. It fosters a sense of accountability, but with a gentle approach that emphasizes growth and repair, not shame. By shifting the focus away from punishment and instead framing mistakes as moments of learning and self-discovery, children are more likely to feel supported and encouraged. This approach aligns with Buddhist teachings of mindful awareness, which emphasizes the importance of being present in the moment, accepting things as they are, and using each moment as an opportunity for personal growth. The role of forgiveness in building resilience. Another crucial component of dealing with mistakes is forgiveness. Buddhist wisdom teaches that holding on to resentment or anger only causes suffering, and that forgiveness is essential for freeing ourselves from negative emotions and fostering inner peace. Teaching children the importance of forgiving themselves for mistakes, as well as forgiving others, helps them develop resilience and emotional balance. Forgiveness allows children to let go of self-blame or feelings of guilt and instead focus on making amends and learning from the experience. It's important to teach children that making a mistake does not mean they are bad or unworthy, it simply means they are human. Everyone makes mistakes, and it is through these imperfections that we learn how to be more compassionate and understanding. Moreover, teaching forgiveness helps children release the grip of negative emotions such as anger, resentment, or frustration. When children are taught that it is okay to forgive others and themselves, they develop a more balanced emotional state, enabling them to navigate conflicts and difficult situations with a sense of peace and clarity. This is a valuable life skill that will serve them well, both in their personal relationships and in their larger communities. The Buddhist concept of karma and accountability. While mistakes should be normalized and approached with compassion, it is also important to teach children the principle of karma, the law of cause and effect. Karma is not about punishment, but about understanding that our actions have consequences. It is crucial for children to learn that their actions can impact others, and that they are responsible for their choices. However, the concept of karma in Buddhism also highlights the possibility of positive change. If a child makes a mistake that affects someone else, they can be encouraged to make amends and repair the harm. This process of taking responsibility and making things right is not about punishment, but about the healing and growth that comes from acknowledging the consequences of one's actions. When a child understands the principle of karma, they begin to develop a deeper sense of accountability, not out of fear or guilt, but out of a genuine desire to do better and create positive outcomes. This helps them understand that they are not defined by their mistakes, but by their capacity to learn, grow, and change. Fostering resilience through compassionate mistakes. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, and it is an essential quality for navigating life's challenges. Teaching children to be compassionate toward themselves in the face of mistakes is a key component of building resilience. When children are allowed to make mistakes without the threat of harsh judgment or punishment, they begin to see challenges as opportunities to develop inner strength and emotional flexibility. Buddhism teaches that suffering is an inevitable part of life, and it is through our response to suffering that we develop wisdom. When children make mistakes, they experience a form of suffering, whether it's disappointment, frustration, or embarrassment. However, by responding to these challenges with compassion and mindfulness, children learn to transform suffering into a tool for growth. This process fosters resilience, enabling them to face future challenges with confidence and a balanced emotional state. Modeling forgiveness and compassion as parents. As parents and caregivers, it is essential to model the behaviors we wish to see in our children. If we expect our children to approach mistakes with compassion and forgiveness, we must also demonstrate those qualities in our own lives. By showing self-compassion when we make mistakes, owning our mistakes, and practicing forgiveness, we set a powerful example for our children. When children see their parents modeling humility, accountability, and forgiveness, they are more likely to internalize these behaviors and adopt them as their own. Additionally, when parents and children engage in open conversations about mistakes and forgiveness, it fosters an atmosphere of emotional safety, where mistakes are not feared, but embraced as opportunities for growth. The lifelong impact of embracing imperfect. By teaching children to normalize mistakes and practice forgiveness, we are laying the foundation for a lifetime of emotional intelligence, resilience, and compassion. Children who are encouraged to learn from their mistakes and forgive themselves and others are better equipped to navigate the challenges of life with an open heart and a strong sense of self-worth. This approach helps children build the inner resources needed to live with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom as they grow older. They will be less likely to fear failure, less likely to hold on to grudges, and more likely to approach life with a sense of curiosity and openness. In essence, by normalizing mistakes and teaching forgiveness, we help children become compassionate and resilient individuals, not only for themselves but for others. 8. Nurture interconnection and empathy. In Buddhism, the concept of interbeing, the understanding that all things are interconnected, is one of the most profound teachings. It teaches that no one is truly separate from another, and everything, whether animate or inanimate, exists in a web of relationships that influence one another. This understanding can profoundly shape a child's capacity for empathy and compassion, as it highlights the intrinsic connections between themselves and the world around them. By nurturing this sense of interconnection, parents can guide their children toward a deep and enduring sense of empathy, fostering kindness not only towards people but towards the environment and all sentient beings. Teaching children to recognize their interconnection with others and with nature is essential for developing a worldview based on empathy. Once children understand that they are part of a larger whole, they are more likely to act with compassion and consider the impact of their actions on others. The realization that their actions ripple out into the world, affecting friends, family, nature, and even strangers, encourages a mindset rooted in care and responsibility. The concept of interbeing, seeing beyond the self. The concept of interbeing comes from the teachings of the Buddha, who emphasized the interconnectedness of all life. In his teachings, the Buddha encouraged his followers to see beyond their own isolated experiences and understand that all things are impermanent, interconnected, and dependent on each other. Interbeing is the recognition that the actions and existence of one being affect others. This wisdom invites us to recognize that every action, no matter how small, creates an effect that reverberates through the web of life. For children, understanding interconnection can be challenging because they often view themselves as separate from others and from the environment. However, through gentle guidance and examples, children can begin to see that they are part of a larger, intricate web of relationships. This realization allows them to appreciate the impact of their actions on others and fosters a sense of responsibility, both to people and to the natural world. One of the key aspects of Buddhist interbeing is the understanding that all beings share the same fundamental desires, to be happy and to avoid suffering. When children learn that everyone, including animals, plants, and even distant people, shares these desires, they develop a natural empathy. Empathy arises from the recognition that we are not isolated, but part of a greater whole where the joy and suffering of others affect us just as our actions affect them. Experiencing interconnection through nature. One of the most effective ways to nurture a sense of interconnection in children is through a direct engagement with nature. Nature is an obvious reflection of the interconnectedness of all things, where every element, from the trees and animals to the rivers and oceans, plays a vital role in maintaining balance and harmony. Taking children on nature walks is an opportunity to talk about the many ways in which all living things depend on each other. Discuss how trees provide oxygen for us to breathe, and in return, we care for them by reducing pollution. Explain how animals contribute to the balance of ecosystems, or how the rain and water cycle sustain life. By seeing nature as a system in which each part plays an important role, children can begin to understand the significance of their own role in the world. As you walk, take time to ask thoughtful questions like, how do you think the trees help the animals? What would happen if we didn't take care of the environment? How can we protect nature to ensure it stays healthy for everyone? These discussions help children connect the dots between their actions and the well-being of the planet and its inhabitants. By developing this understanding, children naturally begin to extend compassion not only to people but to the environment as well, recognizing that the health of one part of the ecosystem affects all other parts. Learning empathy through stories and media. Another powerful tool for nurturing interconnection and empathy in children is the use of stories and documentaries. Buddhist stories, such as those in the Jataka tales, often focus on the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of empathy and compassion. These stories provide clear and accessible examples of how our actions impact others, whether it's through helping those in need, forgiving a wrongdoer, or protecting the environment. In addition to traditional Buddhist stories, exposing children to media that showcases diverse cultures and the lives of people in other parts of the world can broaden their understanding of the interconnectedness of humanity. Documentaries about people living in different countries or under different circumstances can help children develop empathy by seeing the challenges others face. It encourages a mindset that recognizes shared humanity, that we are all interconnected, no matter where we live or how different we may seem. For example, you might watch a documentary about children in a different country and discuss how their lives are similar to your child's in many ways, despite differences in geography or culture. This helps children recognize the shared hopes, dreams, and struggles that unite us all, fostering a deeper sense of global empathy. Volunteering as a family. One of the most impactful ways to teach children about interconnection is by engaging in community service or volunteering. Volunteering as a family allows children to see firsthand how their actions can make a difference in the lives of others, especially those who are less fortunate or who face greater challenges. Whether it's helping at a local food bank, cleaning up a park, or visiting an elderly care home, volunteering offers children a tangible way to understand how kindness and compassion can positively affect others. It also teaches the concept of shared responsibility, that we all have a role to play in supporting the well-being of our community and the world at large. By participating in these activities together, children learn that they are part of a collective effort to improve the lives of others, creating an empathetic bond between them and the community. Volunteering also offers an opportunity to discuss the interconnectedness of life in a practical way. As you engage in activities together, you can talk about the ways in which helping others not only brings positive change to their lives but also creates a sense of fulfillment and joy within oneself. This teaches children that compassion is not just about helping others, but also about creating positive energy that ripples back into their own lives. Developing empathy for all living beings. In Buddhism, the idea of metta or loving kindness extends to all beings, human, animal, and even the natural world. By encouraging children to cultivate a love and respect for all life, we help them develop a holistic empathy that transcends boundaries. This can begin with encouraging children to take care of their pets, show kindness to animals, or appreciate the role animals play in the ecosystem. When children develop a deep respect for all forms of life, they understand that their actions toward others, whether human or animal, have a ripple effect. For example, children might be encouraged to care for animals with kindness and empathy. If they notice a bird with a broken wing or a stray dog, ask them how they might help. These small acts of compassion instill a deep understanding that all living beings are deserving of kindness and respect. It also teaches that compassionate actions have the power to alleviate the suffering of others, no matter how small the act might seem. The role of mindfulness in cultivating empathy. Mindfulness is a core practice in Buddhism, and it is deeply tied to developing empathy. By teaching children to be mindful of their actions, words, and thoughts, we help them become more attuned to the emotions and needs of others. Mindfulness allows children to become present with their feelings and the feelings of others, which is essential for cultivating true empathy. You can practice mindfulness with your child by encouraging them to pause and reflect before reacting to situations. For instance, if a child feels anger or frustration, encourage them to take a deep breath and think about the feelings of others involved. Ask them questions like, "How do you think your friend feels when you say that? What do you think would make them feel better?" This teaches children to pause, reflect, and connect emotionally with others before acting, an essential skill for developing deep empathy and compassion. Creating a culture of compassion at home. The final key to nurturing interconnection and empathy is creating an environment of compassion within the family. Children learn empathy by observing how family members treat each other and others. When compassion is modeled consistently, children are more likely to adopt it as their own. Encourage open communication, where family members are encouraged to express their emotions and listen to each other with understanding. Teach children that it's okay to disagree or feel frustrated, but the way we communicate and respond to each other should always come from a place of respect and kindness. By practicing empathy, compassion, and mindfulness within the family, you create a home environment that reflects the values of interconnection and mutual respect. This foundation allows children to extend these qualities to the wider world, seeing themselves as part of a larger community where their actions have meaning and impact. Conclusion. Planting seeds of peace, one day at a time. As the Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. Teaching compassion is not a one-time lesson, it's a daily practice, a living example, and a long-term journey. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You just need to be a present, kind, and sincere one. In doing so, you give your child the most precious gift, a heart that cares, a mind that understands, and a life that brings peace to the world.